Officer for Hardin County Schools, and very excited to have you back here on this session of Impacting Learning and Empowering Students. This is one of my favorite times of the year, and you're going to ask why, because it's May. The sun is shining. The birds are out early every day. We have about 1,100 seniors are going to be graduating here in just a few weeks. So I always talk about it, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And we always talk to our students about finishing strong. And we've had some amazing conversations with students across our district, not just high school, but elementary, middle, and high over the last few weeks. We've been starting our work ethic certification interviews. We've been doing some senior exit interviews. And we've just been listening to our students about the experiences they've had here in Hardin County Schools and who are some of the people that help make those opportunities a reality for them, which is unbelievable. And I don't think anybody offers more opportunities for their kids in the Hardin County Schools. So really here with us today, we have a couple of important people here with us. Two people that have what I use the word impact. They have an impact on the students that they serve and the district that they serve. And I want to thank Lisa Slavin for being here with us today, and Mr. Blake Benham. Lisa is our more of our district transition coach, and Blake Benham is a school transition coach at North Hardin High School. So thank you all for being with us.
Absolutely.
Thank you. All right. So I just want to start off by you all saying something positive about the school year. If you had to say, here's one win for me, it's okay to have an individual me this year, win. What would you say is a win for you this year, Mr. Benham, there at North Hardin High School?
I would say we've really emphasized this year students either becoming industry certified or completing an end-of-program assessment, really trying to focus on completing pathways and then taking the test at the end of that pathway to become certified. So we've been able to score a lot more industry certifications, especially in engineering, agriculture. That wasn't really something that we did as well last year. So this year I think it's been much more of an emphasis for us.
So it's not just the fact of taking the test, it's actually looking at specific pathways like engineering and ag and saying, hey, we increased our numbers in that pathway, more people actually pass the test, and they're getting those certifications and ready to move to
Absolutely.
the next level.
Yep.
Congratulations, that's a huge win.
Yeah.
So for you at a district level, he has that school perspective from North Hardin. You're thinking from a district, lens. What do you see?
Well, for one, the school year has just flown by.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we just started and we're already wrapping up and ending. But if I had to summarize this year, it's just been continual growth. In every area that we look at, it's like we're just continually adding more, doing more, seeing more successes. And I've also been training a new transition coach this year over at John Hardin. We've hired a new one because my last transition coach moved up into an administrative position. So that's been an exciting journey for us as well, getting her into the world of CTE, which is a whole nother world in and of itself.
Yeah, we do. We always have changes in positions at times, and you did have to, to train a new one there at John. And we hope Mr. Benham actually gets to stay a while with us here in this position. How many years have you been in this position now?
This is my second full year in this. Yeah.
The second full year,
Yeah.
okay. And I can tell you the difference he is making right now is unbelievable. Just looking at his students that were post-secondary ready. I think the kids that weren't post-secondary, I think he cut that number in half from one year to the next. So his percentage is very high, and that's a credit to the work you're doing. So let's talk about post-secondary readiness for a minute. That's one of the first things I have in one of my questions here, and just give us some overview of what we're working on with schools to help make post-secondary readiness happen. Tell our community what that means for our seniors. I want the parents to understand. We say your student is post-secondary ready when they leave high school as a senior. What does that mean?
So it basically means that they are ready to transition out of school, which is our goal. We want to spend all of this time preparing them for what success looks like for them. And that looks different for every student. So if their goal is to successfully transition out of Hardin County Schools into post-secondary education, we want to make sure they're ready for that. And so they can show us and the state through a couple different methods, whether that's passing a dual credit class, taking an AP exam, meeting benchmark scores on a college readiness exam, all of those things that they can use to show that they're ready to move on. And then for our students who are ready to go directly into the workforce, and that is their goal, we certainly use our 40 different pathways to make sure that they get some sort of certification that allows them to not just enter the workforce, but to enter the workforce skilled, which allows them to enter at a living wage, which is a big goal for us. And so we focus with them on getting them skills and certificates, and then obviously our work ethic certification for everybody, because even if you're going to college, the goal is a job, and we want you not only get the job and have the technical skills, but to have all those soft skills as well. So.
Right. Now Mr. Benham, you as an individual school there, you look at your classes from 9th grade through 12th grade, and it's not just the senior year that's important, am I right?
Sure.
I mean, when do you start working with these kids and start talking about that term, post-secondary readiness?
We've actually started to get into middle schools and do that as soon as 8th grade to try to give them, before we do scheduling, that they even know what a pathway is, that they know that they can take the ACT their junior year, so that they can start taking that seriously and start trying to get plugged into a pathway before they get into high school, so that they have time to complete it and take any tests that they need to take with it. We start giving the CERT test in 9th grade. That's a preparatory ACT practice test, so that they can start to see what their benchmark scores will look like for that.
That's good. So looking at your post-secondary readiness scores, we always say we want at least 90% of our seniors leaving out of high school to be post-secondary ready. Kind of what is your percentage there at North Hardin now? What are you up to?
I think, before we end the school year, I think we're up to 82% right now.
That's
and,
unbelievable.
And so we still have a few more tests to take and all that stuff, so hopefully we'll get up there.
Got a few more weeks in school. We still
Yeah.
got kids working toward that goal,
Oh,
don't
yeah.
we?
We're working to the last minute.
And that's what we want parents to know, that we're working to the last minute. And those kids that maybe aren't going to meet post-secondary ready, we're meeting with those students. We're talking about the journey that they took. And what we learned about from having those conversations, a percentage of our kids that are not meeting post-secondary readiness, they just got here to Hardin County.
Right.
They just moved in within the last 2 years. Is that what
Especially with our school, with Fort Knox being pretty close, we do see a high transient population coming in their senior year sometimes, and just not having the time to work with them, because it does take time to complete a pathway. You have to finish 4 classes, and sometimes their school where they came from didn't have that pathway offered. So that's a challenge for us to get those kids transition ready.
Because we can always match up a pathway that,
Right.
that that maybe doesn't exist for us, that existed in another school district, and vice versa.
Right.
But, if you're a middle school parent watching the show today and you're sitting here thinking, you mean my 8th grade kid is going to sit down with an adult, do some one-on-one scheduling, and start talking about a pathway, in high school. But Lisa, I don't think that 8th grade year is just the only time they understand about these pathways. I mean, we have a process that we go through from 6th to 8th grade. Can you talk a little bit about those lessons they go through in 6th to 8th grade, and maybe the ILP process that we talk about, to say, here's how we prepare your kid to have those thoughts, to be prepared for that 8th grade conversation leading to Mr. Benham at the high school?
So we have 2 major pieces of the puzzle when it comes to our middle school students. Number 1 is we have a careers exploration class at almost all of our middle schools, which is 6th, 7th through 8th grade, covering all the pathways, but also allowing them to do that exploratory component. We hear from a lot of people like, high school's still young to be locked into what you want to do. But we do want them to have the opportunity to complete their pathway in high school. So we try to get that exploration portion done while they're in middle school, to where they're doing hands-on activities and realizing that they either have a skill set that they weren't aware of, or that they have an interest in something they weren't aware of. And then they do have time in high school to try a couple different pathways and explore it. They're not locked in by any means, but it allows them to narrow it down because we have so many options. So the careers class is one component. I always encourage parents to start having those conversations with their students about, what are you doing in there? How do you feel about it? Was it easy? Was it hard? What did you like about it? And then the second component, I actually just posted it the other day on social media, is major clarity, because that is 6th through 12th grade. It is part of our ILP program, which is your individualized learning plan for the state of Kentucky. And basically, it's a program where they can go on there and look at different careers, look at post-secondary options for our high schoolers, even look at work-based learning options, and watch interviews, do activities, even more of that exploration component, so that they have an idea, a broad idea, hopefully, of what's out there and what's kind of piquing their interest. And I always encourage parents to sit down with their kid and pull it up, take a look at it. What kind of stuff are they liking and looking at on there? What are they
Right.
thinking about? And be involved in that educational process with
So
them.
you can do that in the ILP, or you can get online and look up Hardin County Pathway catalogs.
Yes.
And pick out the school of your choice and look at North, Central, or John and say, oh, here's the pathways that they offer, and this is what my child's been talking about with somebody. Mr. Benham, when you sit down with that 8th grade kid, what are some of the most popular pathways that pop out from kids?
When they get a chance to tour EC3, I think they usually see one that is more hands-on, like the building construction or the welding pathway for some kids. Animal science is a pretty popular one for students who like animals. Our consumer family services, like culinary, for students who like to cook. So all those things that are more hands-on tend to stand out.
Right,
for
and what
those
we and what we tell kids is when I go over there to the culinary program, I see kids working together. I see a lot of collaboration. I see a lot of students learning how to work on a team. And I think sometimes those soft skills we forget we're teaching kids. Somebody say, well, that kid's not going to be a cook one of these days. They're not going to work in a restaurant. Maybe not. But they're learning how to work with people and learning how to talk to people and learning how to serve people and serve others. And I think there's some things we forget about some of the pathways that we offer the kids, and that's what really stands out to me a lot. So let's talk about the EOP. We talked about the IOP, the Individual Learning Plan, that we set up with kids from 6th grade through 12th grade to kind of outline some of their goals and some of the pathway exploration. Let's talk about the EOP test. Now, if I ask you, Mr. Benham, what is an EOP test, and how do you qualify to take that test, and what happens if you pass the test? I'm going to let you talk about that a little bit.
The EOP stands for End of Program Test, so that's the test that's available to the students at the end of their career pathway. So typically when they have 2 credits in their career pathway, they can take the EOP test. And so it's going to be a collection of questions about their career pathway, and then there's also some work-based learning questions on there too that are more general. So the students have to get a 70% on that to pass the EOP. Once they've done that, some schools in Kentucky will give them articulated credit in their career pathway field at that point. So, and that's the good thing about passing that is it also meets transition readiness requirements for the state of Kentucky, so they become career ready as well.
Okay, it helps them on the post-secondary readiness numbers that we're talking about by passing that. And there's different ways you can become post-secondary. We didn't mention
Right.
It's not just passing the EOP or the industry cert. It's also benchmark on ACT.
The dual credit
Dual
classes.
credit classes that you can take.
And they've added just last year the work-based
Work-based learning.
component, so you can complete 300 hours in a job, and obviously that should show that you're capable of transitioning into the workforce because you've successfully done it already.
Well, let's talk about that. While we're on, working and, kids' work-based experience, how is that different from co-op? Or is that the same as co-op? When we say co-op, a lot of times I think people think about juniors and seniors having the opportunity to actually, complete some prerequisites in a certain pathway, and then they earn the right to go out their junior and or senior year to co-op and make some money. What's the difference in that between the work-based learning?
So the work-based learning measure in terms of post-secondary readiness, getting 300 hours to show that you're ready to transition out, is usually done through co-op. So you do your co-op class, which basically means on your schedule you get to leave and go to work, and it's almost always a paid position. So they're making money, getting a grade, getting a credit towards graduation, and if they do 300 hours, which you can within a school year if it's built into your schedule, they're also transition ready. We do have opportunities for students who aren't co-oping, which is tied to a pathway, to also go out and do work. So it's the same concept. The class just isn't called co-op because co-op is specifically tied into a pathway. But for those students who maybe didn't figure one out or came in, as we were talking about earlier, a little bit later
Right.
in their senior year, there's still opportunities for them to go out and work that's not tied to a pathway, but that is our preference, is that students are doing it through the lens of a pathway so that the work experience they're getting is actually tied into the technical skills that they've been learning and what they want to do after they graduate.
Gotcha. Okay, so it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
May not connect to a pathway, but it's work they can get done to help them qualify for post-secondary readiness. That's true. So I want to ask one more question before we move on here. Mr. Benham, do you ever get a chance to actually transition down to the elementary schools at all? Or is it primarily just the middle school leading into high school?
We do have opportunities to get to the elementary schools. We can do work ethic certification interviews. But as far as making a presentation to them, I haven't been able to get to the elementary schools yet to do that. But that's something for next year I'd like to try to do.
It's kind of a next step,
Yeah.
I think, for us, because as we start looking at our portrait of a learner, we start looking at students doing a defensive learning within their work ethic certification. I think some things we do at the high school level, middle school level, start to flow down to some of that. So
Their introduction right now is that our elementary schools all do some form of a career day. And so they bring in various different employers, and each of them do it a little differently. Some of them do it whole school, some of them just do it with 5th grade, but they generally rotate through different presenters who are talking about the careers that they do. They even bring their vehicles. I know I was out at Lincoln Trail Elementary School for theirs. They had a helicopter one year. They had all kinds of different vehicles out there for them to be able to see, the fun side of jobs, but also it's a lot of our parents come in to talk to students, all of our students, not just their own, about what is the job that they do, so they can be exposed to as many careers as possible before reaching into our career class in middle school. So it's just like
So a
a
career day
brief
in elementary school.
introduction of, hey, here are some options, just to kind of start planting seeds and get them asking questions.
We also have, so that's more of an elementary school thing, but we also have the reality store for middle school. I don't know if you've had a chance to take part of that and all the reality
I haven't
stores.
been able to get to that.
But definitely, that's been a big component of something that we do at the middle schools. It's kind of another day to them to kind of understand some real-life applications.
It's a simulation, and part of that stemmed from Superintendent Morgan was up speaking one time, and I remember her mentioning how important it was for kids to have memorable experiences. And a memorable experience for me when I was in school, I was at Bluegrass Middle School for 8th grade, and I remember doing the reality store. And so I started talking to our schools and like, hey, what if we brought back this simulation that ties in financial literacy, which we hear from the public all the time. They're like, kids need financial literacy, along with their career pathway. And come to find out, some of the FRISCs, our family resource coordinators at the schools, have been looking into it right before COVID hit. So we partnered together with them. And basically, the students will do some financial literacy lessons in their class, and then they start working in connection with Major Clarity in their ILP to see salary and job that they're interested in. And at the actual reality store event, they go through a month's worth of bills, and the finances are based off of the job entry level that they want to do as an 8th grader right now going into high school, picking their career pathway, so they can see how the finances for that works out and also understand what it's like to pay bills and how taxes work.
Right.
And we bring in community partners to work all those tables. So the bank is an actual local bank and employees here in our community, so that they're tied in with our students from day one, not just senior year as co-op partners. We bring in the water district to run our utilities, or KU. We have SWOPE in there working the transportation table all the time to help kids pick out cars. So it's very interesting to see our community partners be able to have a chance to mentor youth in not only a field that they're interested in, but also that key component of helping them understand finances and kind of share wisdom with them along the way.
Right. Any particular career, I guess, community partners you work with more than others in your job, Mr. Benham in particular?
We definitely work with the big ones like SWOPE, Metalsa, that they've been able to come and help us with our work ethic interviews. A lot of them are willing to take on a co-op student. So for sure, those types of big community players like SWOPE.
So you're making connections like that all the time, even at the
Yeah,
school level.
sure.
Let's talk about-
Altech is constantly
Altech.
around. Abound, I know we do a
Abound.
lot with Abound. We have so
Yes.
many strong community partners.
And
it'd
they're willing
take
to
a
come
minute
to
list them all.
the job fairs as well.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. What does the job fair look like for you guys in particular?
Yeah, so this year we were able to have those community partners come, and they were set up for our seniors who were getting ready to graduate. A lot of them took a survey on the ILP program, Major Clarity, indicating that they didn't have plans to go to college. So we tried to set them up with an opportunity to meet with those community partners for a job, either by actually interviewing at the job fair or just getting their resume out in front of them so that they could follow up later. So those kind of opportunities that we wanted to try to build in for kids who aren't necessarily going to college but don't have a firm, concrete plan yet.
So did you all do that at North Hardin High School, or did you take them like to the extension office?
Yeah, that was at the extension office, yeah.
Okay, that was at one location for all of our
Right.
seniors to get to go to. Something I would like to look at in the future is I'd be curious to know how many of those kids actually secured a position.
So
after
we
that.
will, part of that career fair is a partnership with the Career Center, and they are going to be sending out a survey to the employers that were present there to see, did you get resumes, did you follow up with any students, did you interview, and how many did you actually hire? So we are going to collect data from that to see how it turned out for some of our students.
That will help us, because even we talked about even maybe moving the job fair past our senior exit interviews to kind of make sure we can give them that opportunity to, toward the end, to see if what step they really want to take next, because that's an important step for kids. I always say there's really three options that we talk to kids about. It's either being enrolled, enlisted, or employed. You're either going to be enrolled in some sort of a post-secondary institution, a college, 2-year, 4-year, trade school. You're going to be enlisted in one of the armed forces, or you're going to be employed in a very, hopefully a living wage position. those are the three things we hope for our students in Hardin County Schools, and you guys are doing a great job of setting that up for them. So I greatly appreciate that. You know, I guess next thing is in terms of, you know, the impact of one-on-one scheduling in the spring prior to going to high school. You know, that's to me is that step we talked about earlier. You know, what can we do to make that more impactful for students, to make them understand how important that is? I'm not sure an 8th grader understands the impact is the word I guess I would use there. What is a step we can take to make that stronger for them?
Our big push with one-on-one scheduling is to get more parents involved in the process. Your children
Yes.
look up to you greatly, and you are also one of their first sources of information and education. And parents also have guidance and wisdom to provide of their own. Everybody's had their own life experience when it comes to, you know, what you thought you wanted to do or what you planned to do when you were a child, and then what you're actually doing and the route you took to get there. For some people, it's a straight line, but for the majority of them, you know, it is a winding road. So we'd love to have more parents come and be a part of one-on-one scheduling, get all of the information about, you know, what is this transition readiness measure that they have to meet? What are some things that we should be focusing on? What are the career pathways? And talk to your kids about that ILP that they've been doing, and what are their interests, and how can we use high school and their time there to prepare them for what they want to do afterwards, and just be involved in that whole process.
So it sounds like to me, it's like we do a very good job in 8th grade of trying to get that parent involved, but when they get to high school and they get that schedule set, maybe they don't get involved in the 4-year outlook. Am I right, or is there?
Yeah, sometimes there aren't as many opportunities for parent involvement, so we can do a better job, I think, of trying to increase parent involvement events. We try to do a parent night every year where parents can come and tour some of the career pathways. This year we did an 8th grade tour where the 8th graders actually got to come into both EC3 and North Hardin to see some of our career pathways in action during the school day, so that they could actually see what the classes were like. So hopefully they went home and shared that with their parents for sure.
So parents, if you're listening out there, please be involved in this process with us, because we really feel like if you meet us halfway, we can do so much more for your kids if you get involved in the process early and stick with the process. But at the big picture here, the last question I really want to talk about here is kids that are struggling to meet post-secondary readiness. What are some of the roadblocks that if a middle schooler is listening out here today, what would we tell them some of the roadblocks to some of these high schoolers not meeting it or not passing an EOP? What's a roadblock for them not getting there that we can kind of talk to them about?
Yeah. One thing I've seen for a lot of students is jumping around to different pathways. Not that we don't encourage you to get out of a pathway that you don't enjoy, but trying to limit it to maybe 2 or 3. Because when you try to bounce around to a different pathway, you just don't have time to get to the 2 required credits to take the EOP test, and that can prevent you from even having the chance to be transition ready. So we really try to get them to stick with a pathway, because the longer you're in a pathway, the better you're going to do on the EOP, the more likely you're going to pass an industry certification, the more time you're going to have to do co-op and things like that. So,
Right. 2 classes in a pathway and you're a concentrator.
Right.
You can take an EOP or an industry cert maybe, but to be a 4-class, completer instead of a concentrator actually probably will make you more prepared
Right.
by taking the classes. So I can't thank you all enough. I know we threw a lot of information out there today. The big thing is the process we go through from elementary all the way from career day to middle school career fairs to one-on-one scheduling in middle school to choosing that pathway, completing that pathway, taking your end-of-program assessments, your industry certifications, becoming post-secondary ready in that avenue or other ways, and the people that make this happen. I think looking at our overall numbers as a district, I want to leave with something very, very positive here. It looked like the numbers that I was doing based on about our 950 seniors, looked like 95% overall we're going to be post-secondary ready. So that is a big credit to you, Mr. Benham, and also to Ms. McCurry at John Hardin High School, to Ms. Wilson at Central Hardin High School, to Ms. Slavin, to our connection with EC3, where a lot of career and technical education pathways occur, and Mr. Robbins and his crew. So that it takes a village to make this happen, but we're proud that our numbers are that good here in a district this large. And anything else y'all want to add from a positive perspective to leave for our community here today?
I always tell our students, just ask questions, students and parents, but mostly students. Everything we do is so purposeful. And so I hate for them to look back and say, oh, I didn't know. So pay attention to everything that's going on
Don't
around
be
you.
afraid to ask.
Yeah, and ask questions about it. What is this CERT test and why are we doing it? How is it going to help me? Why should I go to this career fair? What is a career pathway? And parents, follow us on social media. Whenever there's a post on there, ask your kid questions about it. Hey, it says that there's a career fair coming up. It says that you guys have KSA testing. It says that these kids went to a competition. Like, ask
Right.
questions and use your resources to get those answers, because while we're here, we're a great resource to be able to give you all the information that you're looking for. But sometimes you just got to take a little bit of initiative and come up and ask a little bit more about it and get that information.
I like it.
I would just say that we have so many opportunities to get involved in a career pathway that you want to be involved in. If we don't offer the exact career pathway, then our counselors are really good about getting you classes where you can start working towards that, and maybe by senior year you can co-op in a really specific place that you want to spend time at. So I would say you have to put yourself out there and try to get into the classes that you want, but you also have to talk to people that have
That's right.
get help from those people.
Don't be afraid to ask questions. Reach out to us. We're here to serve. So we appreciate it. I want to thank you all for joining us here on this show of Impacting Learning and Empowering Students, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.